So, welcome to the Data Vault Friday. My name is Michael Olschimke. I'm the CEO of Scalefree. We have this session here every week, essentially to allow you, the audience, to ask questions about Data Vault, data-driven solutions, anything data-driven, cloud computing, whatever. But should be data-driven, right? All questions are allowed. You can use the chat here for raising a live question. You can use the Q&A here in the client. You can just raise your hand if you want to have voice. I'm happy to do that. Or you use a form, which I'll show you the link for after today's session. If we receive multiple questions, I would essentially cherry pick, and it's time box, so roughly 10 minutes for the answers. Perfect. If there would be no questions at all, we will talk about the cluster here in my private basement here. Didn't make much progress, to be honest, in the last 6 months. So it's good that you're asking questions actually, and we have some questions still in the pipeline, so it's all good. All right. So let me share you my screen because I don't see anybody coming up with a live question. So here's a question here from a project. It's really about the difference between point-in-time tables and record source tracking tables. And let me just read this here first. So how are record source tracking satellites used in the Data Vault? And if it's not used in a project, then how can PIT tables come into play in tracking the customers or business keys? And if we are taking the PITs for tracking the keys, this means we should take the daily snapshot of the data? So let's wrap this up a bit, or unwrap this a bit. First of all, the difference between record source tracking satellites and PIT tables is really, in the first step, about the timelines. The record source tracking satellite is really related to the source data sets, to the incoming source data. So it's all based on the load date, and it's really based on the load date. For every business key that we receive from a source, for every source system, for every load date, we add a row into the record source tracking satellite to keep track of which business keys have been delivered over time. And we can use the satellite table, essentially, or the satellite entity, for different purposes. For example, the most prominent one is to calculate virtual effectivity satellites, for example. Could be used, a bit inefficient, but it's an option, essentially. We use it especially if we are dealing with unreliable source systems. And we can use it essentially to identify issues with business keys. Are they delivered all the time or not? Are they missing maybe from the feed, but they're still in the source, and so on. So we can use this to implement or decouple business rules from to be used in soft delete detection, essentially. That's the idea. While the PIT table is on a different timeline. The PIT table is really on the outgoing information, so it's based on the snapshot timestamp. So, for example, for every customer, you want to create a report every day, right? Or let's say you want to create a report every day with all the customers, actually. So every day means here you have a daily snapshot. Could be on an hourly basis, on a per second basis, whatever the information requirement says, essentially. So it's a different granularity. And yes, it spans also across all the keys in the parent of the PIT table. So if you attach a PIT table to the same hub customer, where you also attach a record source tracking satellite, you would get one record per business key per snapshot date. So there's different granularities here in play, and they serve different purposes. So these tables, you don't want to compare them. I mean, they're different, essentially, for different use cases. So that's number one. So we're looking at two different use cases, two different tables, two different timelines here. All right. So if you don't use, I mean, in many cases, you don't need to use a record source tracking satellite because they will consume storage. And because for every business key, for every load, you get essentially a row in this record source tracking satellite, right? So it's a lot of volume in these tables. And if you can avoid them, don't use them. So we typically don't have them, actually. We use them especially when we have unreliable source systems, delivering some business keys once in a while, not, or yeah, that's the idea. PIT tables, at least on a traditional database, you will have, because otherwise you have performance issues typically when delivering information, especially dimensions. And you can't use PIT tables for keeping track of business keys, customer keys or something. That's not going to work because PIT tables are used to deliver those keys, not to keep track of those keys. That's the difference here. And if we're taking PIT tables for tracking these keys, no, you can't. Does this mean we should take the daily snapshot of the data? Yeah, the problem is, and that's the difference here. There's different timelines in play. The PIT table is based on the timeline defined by the user when you want to deliver the information. could be daily. Data could also come daily, or you could also get sub-daily delivery. So let's say CDC data. It's decoupled. Both deliveries, the incoming data and the outgoing information, have nothing to do with each other except that the information is using the data for presentation purposes. That's it. But the timelines are completely independent. So you can't use these. You can't use a pit table for keeping track of delivered business keys, and you can't use the record source tracking satellite to deliver dimensions in that sense. Never thought about this, but it's a different timeline anyway. So yeah, so it's really two different tables. That's a key point here of the session today. All right, cool. But interesting question. I mean, I never thought about, to be honest, the fact that both are very similar, actually. When you think about both entities here, both are very similar, but seriously, the big difference is they're on a different timeline. That's the big difference. Otherwise, they're really relatively, I mean, they're relatively similar. I'm not saying the same, right? But yeah, interesting question here. All right, if you have an interesting question like this, use this form here, https sfr.ee/dvfriday. Again, you can also raise it in live. I'm used to that from trainings, essentially. All good. If you want to keep yourself prepared a bit, upload it here, so I can also create a short slide as today or the other sessions. So it's all good. Also check out our other webinars at scalefree.to/webinars. You will find a WESCAP session on a monthly basis and a DBT session on a monthly basis. So it's also yeah, interesting. I'm not the super expert for these tools, right? So, but yeah, I'm the conceptual guy here. All right, but we have consultants who know the stuff, so they talk about those tools essentially. Okay, cool. And yeah, just a quick reminder, after my vacation, so I will be on vacation so next week we have a session again. Yeah, correct. But then, so next Friday, there will be a day road Friday. And then for at least for 10 days, so a week. So the over next Friday is when I'm not essentially here, but somebody from Scalefree will essentially take over. But then after my vacation, we're heading straight to the, I mean, I'm not going to vacation until October 10th, but shortly after my vacation, there will be a conference, a Data Dreamland. Looking forward for it. If you haven't yet reserved your tickets yet, go for it. So we're filling up the space at the moment. And yeah, it would be nice if I can see you over there. And if you meet the team at Scalefree as well. Cool. So October 10, 11 in Hanover, Germany. Mark your calendar for that and come over if you can. Cool. And again, the Data Vault Innovators community, check it out as well. Get your user account there and log into the system. You can ask questions there. There's a forum. We have a monthly Q&A session in live, Notes and me, also where we answer questions from the community as well in a live video stream. So check that out if you can as well. And it's free. So yeah, it's our tool for essentially engaging with the community. All right, cool. Thanks for joining. And yeah, see you hopefully next Friday. Enjoy the weekend. See you guys. Thanks. Bye. Thanks for joining today. If you'd like to discuss this further, give us a call on the number below here, and we're happy to discuss this with you. See you next time. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.